Bloated, gassy, uncomfortable, and no clue why? If you've ever felt like your stomach has a mind of its own, you are not alone. Today is all about unpacking what's really going on in your gut and what you can actually do to fix that awful bloated feeling. Let's be honest, bloating is the worst. One minute you're feeling fine, the next minute your stomach feels like it's staging a protest. You're uncomfortable, you're gassy, maybe even doubled over and wondering what went wrong. But bloating is super common, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating. So today we are breaking it all down, what's actually going on in your body when you feel bloated and what you can actually do to feel better. And make sure you stay to the end because we'll be sharing our top 5 practical solutions that actually work to stop bloating and help you feel a lot better. Hey guys, I'm Amy Lawson, a registered dietitian here to help you thrive without the diet rules. And I am super excited today to be joined by fellow dietitian Ashley Hurst, who is an absolute gut expert. Hey Ashley.
Thanks for having me, Amy. It's good to be here. So my name is Ashley. I'm the owner of the Crohn's and Colitis Dietitians, and we help people throughout the US and Canada get relief, help with coming up with a plan for reducing their risk of flare-ups, and find peace with food again. And I started Crohn's and Colitis Dietitians because I'm also a IBD patient myself, and our entire team is. And when I was diagnosed, I was told that one, there wasn't much I could do with my diet to help it with part of the treatment path, but two, that it didn't even matter, which is so contradicting from what I was learning in my nutrition studies. And I realized that it definitely does matter, especially if you're not able to keep down food or you're struggling to get enough. It definitely impacts your overall treatment path and how well you respond to meds. And so that's why we started Crohn's and Colitis Dietitians, to really help people get answers and get clear on their triggers and finally find relief.
I love that. I'm so thrilled you're here to share that expertise and share that, you're in your story, you were told there's nothing you can do, but actually there's a lot that we can do, and we have to be our own health advocates. So thanks so much for sharing your story. Now we're going to pull back the curtain on what's really going on, because bloating isn't really just one thing. It can have several causes, and often it's your body's way of trying to get your attention. In fact, about 1 in 7 Americans say they experience bloating every single week. And I honestly wonder if that stat is really a little bit higher. Let's get into the top causes that we see as dietitians for bloating. And the first one that comes to mind, I think for most people, is food intolerances and sensitivities. Lactose intolerance is one of the most common and something we certainly see in our practices. It's when our body does not produce enough lactase enzyme to break down the lactose that's in dairy products. And without that enzyme, lactose passes through undigested to our colon, where bacteria ferments it, which can cause gas, bloating, and sometimes even diarrhea.
Yeah, and even stuff like gluten sensitivity can be another way that people might experience bloat. So if they've been tested for celiac, for example, and it comes back negative, you may also have like a sensitivity to stuff like gluten, barley, rye, that sort of thing, and that can cause more bloat and discomfort.
That's another common one. I think that people go on the internet and they're Googling things like, why am I so bloated? And that's one of the most common things that I get asked about. Do I have celiacs? And then I think gluten sensitivity isn't quite as common. So that's something that we discuss as well. You might not have celiacs, but be a little bit sensitive to gluten. So getting tested to find that out is really helpful. Now, another one that's super common and that I fall victim to is eating too fast and also swallowing too much air. So when I had my twins, so my twins are 10 now, but when I had them, we were living in Germany, and it was just me and my husband trying to survive with twin newborns. And dinner time, I was just inhaling my food so that I could actually eat before one of them needed something. And so I was eating way too fast, and then I would just feel that bloat afterwards, because eating too fast causes us to swallow more air, which can lead to bloating and some gas and just like that general uncomfortable feeling. And then other ways that we can also swallow too much air would be chewing gum, drinking through straws, and even talking while you're eating.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I definitely think that's a common one we don't often think about, is how important it is to slow down. And one of the things that comes to mind for me too is water. So there, especially with sometimes people consume too much water. While water is a really important thing and a lot of people don't get enough, sometimes you might start a journey. Like there's this trend right now, 75 hard, where people have, like, one of the tenets is drinking a gallon of water, but that doesn't necessarily work, especially if you're a smaller person, or let's say maybe you're like 100 pounds or
Yeah.
115 pounds or 120, and you're drinking a gallon of water, especially if it's more all at once, you're definitely going to feel a lot more waterlogged and bloated from that.
Yeah, that just reminds us that like certain things out there on the internet are meant to be personalized and individualized. That's why you should find a dietitian, because not everyone should be drinking an entire gallon of water a day. That's too much for some people. And then for other people, maybe you're super active, or maybe you're an athlete who's out there sweating a lot. Maybe that's not even enough. So those can be general guidelines, but find a personalized plan for you. There's my spiel on dietitians.
Yeah. And I can think back to a time when I actually had a patient who had done so much testing to try to get to the root of her bloating, and it only took us one session to figure out, because with her doctor, she only got like 15, 20 minutes with them. So they're not digging into nutrition and,
Right.
and water intake and all that. But in one session, we realized, oh, the reason is not all these other things that you thought it was. It's just that you're consuming, a ton more water than you need. And so
That's amazing.
right away, she was able to
and
get
that's
to
what
the root of it.
dietitians are for. That's awesome. That must have felt like such a great win for you as the practitioner. Like you've done all this testing and seen all these doctors, and I can tell you exactly what's going on right now. That's awesome.
Yeah. Of course, you want it to be something more, more than just that, but
Right.
it's good because you save the patient from having to spend more money on supplements and tests.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes a simple answer is a great answer. Speaking of water, another common cause of bloating are carbonated drinks. So I happen to love a good sparkling water, but carbonated drinks could also be your sodas. It could be energy drinks. But from the soda to the sparkling water, it's the bubbles that are in those drinks. The carbon dioxide is a gas. And when you drink your favorite bubbly beverage, you're swallowing that gas too. And if you drink it too fast or you have a lot, that gas can get trapped, increase pressure in your stomach, which can lead to bloating. And then it can lead to some burping as well. But that's another common cause of bloating that we see.
Yeah, that's a big one. And sometimes you just have to have a little awareness around it. That does help just to know that, okay, that's why I bloated. And then another one that comes to mind for me, especially in the inflammatory bowel disease crowd, is fat malabsorption. So sometimes if you see oily stool and that combined with abdominal pain and bloating, sometimes that could be a sign of you not absorbing fat appropriately. So especially if you're somebody that feels like everything you eat is bloating you, sometimes it may be that, especially if you're having also some of those oily floating stool.
Now is a great time to break out our Bristol stool chart, which I'm sure you use it a lot, Ashley, but I'm a big fan of it because we need to know what's going on with our body. And sometimes we can be really disconnected with things like that. And talking about stool or poop can be uncomfortable, but trust us that dietitians actually really want to hear this. So if you notice big sweeping changes in what's happening with your stool, that can be a sign that something is going on. Just like Ashley said, especially that fatty floating stool, that's a sign that there's something there, which could be fat malabsorption. In that same kind of IBD talk, can you explain what SIBO is to people? Because I'm sure if you've Googled what's going on with my gut, that is one that comes up pretty frequently.
Yeah, SIBO comes up a lot. Small intestinal bacteria overgrowth is what SIBO is. It can happen quite often with people that already have a disease within their small intestine or large intestine with IBD. So there is some overlap. There is some more tendency for people to have that. But really, the way that we uncover what we're dealing with in our patient population is really by asking questions. So asking questions about the timing in which they feel bloating. So is it 15 minutes after eating? Is it 30 minutes to an hour or two after eating? If it's on the longer end, typically that's not actually small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. That tends to be more bloating of the large intestine or like a dysbiosis in the lower GI. So knowing what it is really crucial because if you just make an assumption that maybe it is SIBO because of the extreme nature of the bloat, then you could be taking additional things to try and treat that might not actually be as necessary as you think.
The internet can tell us certain things, but when you talk to an expert, they're going to help you, just like Ashley said, figure out the timing of it. And we're going to dive into all those details. And another cause of bloating, one that I definitely hear all the time, is high fiber. I mean, fiber is excellent for us, but when we have a ton of fiber all at one time, it can be particularly hard to digest, and it can really cause some bloating. So for some specifics, let's talk about good old cruciferous veggies and beans, which are amazing. I talk about the benefits of them all the time, but the one question I get asked pretty frequently is, why does broccoli make me gassy? So the deal on broccoli and pretty much most cruciferous vegetables is that they're awesome. They're packed with fiber, vitamin C, vitamin K, iron. I could really go on here, but they also contain certain carbohydrates like raffinose, fructose, and then that fiber that aren't fully digested in our small intestine. So they move along to our large intestine where they're fermented by our gut bacteria. And they're great for our gut. Our gut loves this, but the byproduct of that fermentation is gas, which can make us feel bloated and uncomfortable, and something that I see pretty commonly.
Yeah, and a motto that we often take in our practice is go low and slow. Start
I love
over.
that.
Yeah, go low and slow. Start small and build over time because sometimes that can make a big difference in reducing some of that bloat. Versus, I think culturally we want to just go do a 180 when it comes to anything wellness related, but
Right.
good and slow with it can make a big difference.
And then another cause of bloating that might not come to mind, the forefront of your mind, is stress. But stress and stomach issues are super connected. We have that strong connection between our brain and our gut, and that's where stress can really lead to stomach issues and certainly bloating.
I one time had stomach issues, and what had happened was I stressed myself out so much that my intestines started bleeding. But it was all, I know I can do that with my mind.
Stress and anxiety lead to the release of cortisol, and cortisol in the gut can lead to a gut microbiome imbalance, which can cause some bloating. And then it can also mess up our transit time. It can cause us to be constipated. It can cause diarrhea, all those fun things. And then if we add the complexities around stress and eating and overeating, then we really have quite the recipe for bloating.
Yeah, and in that same note, I wanted to highlight black float diarrhea. So oftentimes, or constipation. So oftentimes people might say, "Well, I'm not constipated because I'm having diarrhea," but and you ask them, how often are you having that? It's like, oh, every 3 to 4 days, which is actually what we would consider constipation. So it's actually a backup, and liquid is pushing through, and that's actually causing what looks like diarrhea, but it's actually constipation with the root of it. So, and that can definitely lead to a lot of bloating too if you're not regularly moving your bowels.
And another one is hormones. So 3 in 4 women say that they experience bloating before and during their cycles. I mean, it is super, super common. And it's just one of those complaints as well for women who are in perimenopause, all this fun stuff that we get to deal with. But estrogen actually causes some water retention. And when our estrogen spikes and progesterone drops, we might notice bloating from fluids as well. Estrogen and progesterone can also cause us some gas and bloating because they also impact our digestive motility, which could be slowing things down or speeding things up. So it could be constipation, it could be diarrhea. It's a fun roller coaster that we're on. But both of which can cause bloating in each aspect. All right, now we want to hear from you. Which of these common bloating causes have you experienced? Drop it to us in the comments. For me, too many days in a row of my beloved chickpeas, and it makes me super bloated. So I like to space them out during the week. I don't do multiple days in a row, space them out during the week, and then I'm good.
Now, it's important to know that if you have symptoms like blood in the stool, or if you have a nighttime bowel movements, what we call nocturnal bowel movements, that those could be signs that it could be more than just irritable bowel syndrome. You may want to get tested and explore what other things it could be, like inflammatory bowel disease would be one thing that comes to mind for me. But making sure that you check with your GI and get tested to be sure that it's not something more.
And Ashley, can you explain for everybody out there who might have heard of IBD but don't exactly know what it is, what conditions fall under IBD?
Yeah, IBD stands for inflammatory bowel disease. So that would include Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and microscopic colitis. And microscopic colitis includes lymphocytic and collagenous. May also include people that have had surgery as well, like people that have had J pouch, but they all fall under that same umbrella of IBD, which is very different than IBS. So the main differentiator is inflammation. So IBD is distinguished from IBS by the chronic inflammation component. Now, with IBD, you can go through periods of remission, and there's different types of remission that you can have, so the inflammation can be quieted at times. And what's interesting about IBD and IBS is people with IBD can often experience IBS too. So they can have a little bit of an overlap. And I would say half, maybe more, half in the research, but in my experience, maybe more people than even in the studies show typically do have some kind of overlap. So even when their inflammation is controlled, they may still have symptoms.
So I know you shared a little bit about your story earlier, but I want to just dive into that a little bit more because you shared with me that you were dealing with some digestive stuff and had colonoscopies. You were an athlete at the time and just weren't getting the answers.
Yeah, and I hear this from a lot of patients too, that it takes them years sometimes to get a diagnosis. And there can be many layers to why that is, but one of them is, in the healthcare system, sometimes it can take a while to figure out what you're dealing with, especially if you don't look like the traditional case. And there is no look to IBD. Like, even though I was an athlete and not experiencing weight loss at the time, I still had it. And, I think if you're feeling like something's just not right, like listen to your gut, listen to your gut and
literally
your gut feelings on it, and continue to push for answers if you feel like something's off. I think that's really important.
It is so important. I mean, if your bloating comes with changes in your bowel habits or pain or fatigue, that's your cue to talk to your doctor and also speak up for yourself. I really like to empower everyone to be their own health advocate. I've had issues in terms of my health and some things where I really had to speak up for myself, and I wasn't quite aware of needing to do that at the time, but then I kind of found my voice. And when something's wrong and something's wrong, you really have to speak up and maybe see multiple doctors till you find someone or find a dietitian who can help you and who can actually listen to what you're saying. Okay, now let's talk about the fixes, things that actually help with bloating. The first one, and one that I have to remind myself of, is to slow down, starting with how we eat. One thing that I talk a lot with my clients about is mindful eating, which is the practice of actually being present when you're eating and tuning into your body's cues, tuning out social media, putting your phone not only down, but turning it over. Because boy, if that screen's up, we have the tendency to it's just a magnet to us. So putting the phone away, put the distractions away, it helps you be fully present. It helps you slowly chew your food and actually enjoy it. And part of that practice helps us slow down and can reduce bloating as well. And then speaking of slow, Ashley, do you want to talk about slowly incorporating more fiber?
Yeah, I think it's so important to go low and slow when it comes to fiber. So start really small. Try to focus on things that you can add to your diet, just small tweaks. And then every couple days, try something new. I think that's really the best way to do it so that you're not feeling overwhelmed or symptomatic from the new fiber introductions. And then another thing you can do is blending. So if you're someone with IBD, for example, who struggles with fiber, if it scares you a little bit, blending and breaking down some of those fibers ahead of time can make a big difference in terms of your ability to tolerate them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes we start with just like cooking your broccoli until it's softer, or cooking some things until they're softer, but also blending takes that a step further, and that can really help. And Ashley, you have the rainbow method. Can you share what that is and walk us through that?
Yeah, so the rainbow method is what we developed specifically for people with IBD. We wanted kind of a roadmap to introducing foods that kind of feel off limits when it comes to IBD. A lot of us experience a lot of significant fear and legitimized fear when it comes to food and
Yeah.
fiber. So we wanted a pathway for people to really be able to tolerate those foods and go low and slow. And so we developed the Rainbow Method. It's the Rainbow Challenge on our website. It's a free resource for people to use, and it literally is a roadmap. And we've even turned it into a game where each day you get kind
That's
of
cool.
points before you move on to the next level. And so it's a really great tool that we continue to hear from people all the time about how much it's impacted their life, even people that have never worked with us. So definitely, if you are someone that could benefit from that, definitely check it out. It's for free on our website.
And to continue with our sort of slow theme, it's also slowly incorporating probiotic foods into your routine. So things like Greek yogurt, kimchi, also sauerkraut. You want to, just like Ashley said in her rainbow method, these are things we want to slowly incorporate, give them the time to feed that good bacteria in your digestive system, and so you can build things up and feel good about it. And if you're looking for recipes that focus on these probiotic foods, or just recipes that can help feed your gut bacteria good things, I have a whole bunch on my website, and I am going to drop the link down there as well. And while you're shopping for these gut-friendly foods, don't forget to grab my Eat Well, Be Well, Thrive grocery tote bag so you can shop and get your gut health foods in style. I'm dropping the link for you to grab one down in the description.
Some other tools that we like to use in our practice are things like ginger and cardamom, and those can be really, and even peppermint, and those can be really helpful for reducing bloat as well.
And I love that you brought up cardamom. I feel like it's one of those spices that just doesn't get enough attention, and I love it. I've got it in granolas and other baked goods, but incorporating more spices can be really beneficial for your health. So if you're looking for recipes that have cardamom or even ginger, check out my website, and I'm dropping the link below.
And also, we even developed our own product, which I mentioned earlier in the talk. It's called Back to Balance Plus. It has sun fiber and a probiotic strain called L. plantarum 299V. Both have really strong evidence for reducing bloating and abdominal pain. And so we put together that. And of course, it's third-party tested to make sure that we are providing a really good product for people. So we also have that available. But if you're somebody that really needs a little bit more support and a little more guidance and strategy, that's where involving a dietitian can be really helpful.
I'm also going to drop the link to Ashley's probiotic down in the description as well. And remember, hers is third-party tested, so I love that. Now, one of my favorite recommendations for bloating when it's not IBD or these other things, that simple bloating, is simple movement. A gentle walk after meals can really significantly help with digestion and kind of moving some of that maybe trapped gas. This is one that I use a lot and one that I recommend to my clients a lot. And also it helps with our blood sugar. It helps maintain our blood sugar. Instead of doing those big spikes after a meal, it helps us have a gradual spike. And this can be a short walk. I'm talking about 10 minutes and movement after a meal. It can really significantly reduce some of your symptoms. And if you can't do a walk, you could also do some yoga poses. Child's pose is a pretty common one. Happy baby, I kind of love. Or some gentle twists, whatever you find works for you. But also movement in any way. Maybe that's just a little dance party with your kids in the kitchen after a meal if you're feeling bloated, but some movement can help release some trapped gas.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like the dance party idea.
I know, it's kind of fun. And we mentioned that excess water can cause bloating. Proper hydration is certainly crucial for our digestive health, but rather than chugging large amounts at once, try sipping consistently throughout the day. Okay, now let's do a little recap. We've talked about the triggers, the common triggers. We've talked about what does it look like when bloating is more than just bloating. And then we talked about some ways to just alleviate some of that bloating.
Yeah, so common causes of bloating would be like you're eating too fast, too much fiber, gluten sensitivity or different food sensitivities you might have, excess water, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, fat malabsorption, and constipation or backflow diarrhea.
So some key takeaways we hope that you're leaving with after watching this video is that bloating is pretty normal, but chronic bloating really deserves attention. So seek out help from your health practitioner if you feel like something is off. And then also make those changes gradually. Your gut really appreciates baby steps or low and slow, like Ashley said. I love that. And then stay mindful when you're actually eating. Slow down, take the time to look at your plate, notice the colors, the textures, and actually enjoy your food. And most importantly, listen to your body. If something doesn't feel right, it's worth investigating further.
Yeah, and it's important to know that what works for one person might not work for others. And so you really do need, personalized guidance a lot of times. So making sure you connect with the right people and healthcare providers to help you through that journey.
Definitely. And if you're struggling with bloating, try implementing some of the strategies that we've discussed today. Start small, maybe focus on eating more slowly this week, and then gradually adding more fiber in next week. Check out Ashley's rainbow plan that she talked about. And also be patient with your body as it adjusts. And remember that our digestive system is very complex. So tune into all those cues that your body's giving you.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you don't already follow Ashley, go and do that because she is an absolute gut health expert. Ashley's YouTube channel is the Crohn's and Colitis Dietitians. And I've got her Instagram up on the screen right now. So give her a follow. Thanks, Ashley, for joining me and for shedding some light on a common condition, but that could also lead to other things.
All right. Thanks, Amy. If you're someone with IBD and you feel like you need additional support and maybe a strategy and a plan custom to you, then reach out. We do have options for working one-on-one or in a group context. And you can even schedule a free call if you want to just explore those options.
Love it. So many dietitians do that. I do that as well. Sometimes we need to just have that call with someone to see if we're the right fit, to see if we kind of vibe together. But we are all about helping you through these food issues. Check out our websites that are linked below with Ashley's Rainbow Method. And for more gut-friendly food ideas, jump right into my video, The Top Foods for a Healthy Gut. Click the video on your screen right now, and I will see you over there. Until then, eat well, be well, thrive.